Hello, sunshine.
Oops.
Hello.
Hello, how are you?
Hi.
Am I on here or do I here start video maybe? Let's see. There we go. Oh, my lighting's not very good. Oh well.
That's all right. I've missed you.
I know
Oh,
it's been a rough
I know it has.
3.5 weeks. And
I
so
know. I'm
but
so
it's good.
sorry.
But you know what? I mean,
You're
it's going
you're
well.
you're coming out of it, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Like you've had a lot on your plate, and I've been thinking a lot about you though, and I'm glad that you're back at work, and I'm glad that you're catching back up and getting a bunch of listings, which is fantastic. Um,
Yeah.
you know.
It is. I mean, he knows when to keep you busy, right?
Yes,
And
he
so,
does when you need it. But
yeah.
be careful because
Yeah.
when I lost my mama, that's pretty much what I did is I put my head down and I just worked and worked and worked and worked and until
Well,
I didn't
we
feel anything.
Right. Well,
So,
we are, I'm taking her tomorrow. I'm sorry, this light is not very good. Taking her tomorrow. Canton, Texas. Have you heard like the biggest flea market or whatever around?
yeah, I have heard of that. That's
So the first weekend of October is supposedly the best time to go. So we're gonna go stay in Dallas tomorrow night and then spend all day Thursday. But I have to hustle back because I have inspections Friday morning at 9. And so
well, you at least get to go spend some time with her.
yeah, yeah, we do.
I got it. Well, I'm going to let some other people in this
Oh,
room here,
absolutely.
but I just
Yeah,
want to
sounds
say
good.
hi to you personally.
Yeah,
So
thank
I'm
you.
glad I got to see you, and I'm glad you're here. So
Thanks.
hello, hello. Let's see who we got here. Oops. Hello, sunshines.
Hi,
Hi, how are we doing?
good. How are you?
I'm fantastic. Let's see here. I am just dropping a link for the handouts in the chat. So if you're driving, you might not get that, but that's okay. You might not need it. So, all right, I'm gonna give just one more minute here, let some people climb on there, but there should be the handouts for the slides if you need them in the chat box down below. And I just want to say hello. Thanks for joining me today. The call will be recorded. So if you have to jump off, you can go on about your business. And I will be sure to send it to anybody who needs it if you leave early or something like that. But you definitely don't want to miss the end of the class because that's where we're actually going to go through the most common objections that you hear and to give you some language that I use for those objections and kind of walk you through that process. Okay. So welcome, welcome. So let me share my screen here and get to what I want. All right, can everybody hear me okay?
Yes.
Awesome. Okay, so one of the I wrote this class 2 years ago, but I feel like it's timely now because we're getting hit with a lot of objections now, whether it's rate or I have nowhere to live or people asking you for a discount or for whatever objection you're going to come across. But I feel like we're getting more and more of those, and so I want to be able to arm you guys with basically the understanding the practice of how to overcome any objection. And there's actually like a 5-step process to overcoming any objection that you get. And so I want to teach you that process. I want to teach you the 5 steps that are involved in it. And then I actually want you to apply those 5 steps with some of the most common objections that we hear in real estate. Sound good? Anybody have anything particular? Is there a particular objection that somebody really is already thinking of that they've heard recently that they want to make sure that they know how to overcome by the end of the class? Is there anyone in particular anybody wants to ask about before I get started? No? Okay, well, all right, let's move along. In case you don't know me, I think just about everybody does, but my name is Laura Dahl. I'm the founder and owner of RECoachCrate. I am the daughter of a realtor, so I grew up sitting around the dining room table saying, "Can't we talk about anything else besides real estate?" And now, fast forward 20 some years, and I did the same thing to my children. My oldest child is actually in licensing right now, so apparently something must have stuck with him. But I have been doing this almost 25 years. I have owned 2 residential real estate firms in my career. I do sit on the grievance committee for the state of Tennessee. I speak Spanish fluently, and I spend a lot of my time. I do run a small team of agents currently, so I'm still actively selling, but I spend a lot of my time doing coaching, training, and mentoring other broker owners, team leaders, and agents all over the country. So at any time, if you ever need, hey, I'm struggling in this area of my business, I wonder if Laura can help me, shoot me a text or send me an email. I write classes all day long, every day, and I'd be happy to put something together for you or your people or your friends or your agents. But if there's something in particular you need some help with, I probably have a class on it. I've either probably taught a class on it and writing one on it, or can help you. So just keep that in mind. If you do find something that you need a little help with, I'm always available to help you out there. We're not really going to do housekeeping because this is a Zoom call, but before we get started, I kind of want to talk about, before we talk about objections, I need you to, we have to talk about 3 things. And the first thing is that you must realize that you have something of value to offer somebody. You must realize that what you have, your skill set, is so important to people out there that you have something that they need. You must realize that you are needed. You're not a bother to people. You're not a used car salesman. I live in the South, and every time I teach this class, I always joke and laugh and say, well, in the South, we don't want to bother people. And when we, get a little pushback, when someone gives us some type of objection, we tend to put our tail between our legs and run the other direction and kind of go, "Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to bother you." And they keep going. And, a lot of agents get into this business because they love houses. They like real estate. They like the thrill, the seek, and the hunt. But the reality is that this is actually a sales job too. And you have to have some sales skills. And so I wrote this class to kind of help you have some sales skills in your pocket so that you have some things to go to when you are hit with an objection. But the first thing before you can even talk about objections is I need you to realize that you have something now valuable and something that's needed. So I am going to ask you to unmute yourself for a second and kind of take turns since we have a small group here. I want to ask you one question, and that is, what is your superpower? What is your superpower? So I'd love for you to unmute yourself and tell me, what is the one thing that I think I am amazing at, or something I'm great at? What is my superpower that I bring to this industry, that I bring to the table when working with buyers or sellers? What is that one thing that separates you from the rest?
My sense of humor.
Absolutely. Your personality and your sense of humor is what wows them right away. They all want to marry you right away. So I get that. That's Kaylin. She's funny as all get out. She has a great sense of humor, but she also can deflect a lot of high stressful situations using humor, using her sense of, her personality to do that. That's a great one. What else? All right. Don't make me call on you.
Okay, I would say that I'm good at, I guess, holding in my feelings and trying to calm down my clients, when things get stressful.
Perfect.
I won't say that I do that after I hang up the phone, but
Right.
at least in the situation, they're always, I can talk them down off the cliff, I guess.
Right. And even though we are emotionally charged by it, like, of course, we're seeing our paycheck slip through our fingers, or we're frustrated with our clients. We have to put on a poker face and get them through it and keep them from jumping off the ledge, and trying to be the voice of reason and calm throughout the process, even though inside we're dying, right? Or
Right.
inside we're frustrated. So that's a great superpower to have. Is it Jesse? What's your superpower? Are you there? She just unmuted, so I'm not sure. Jennifer, do you want to share yours? Nope. All right, Brandy, coming to you. Oh,
can you hear
there
me?
she is. There she is. Hi, Jennifer.
Hi.
Hi.
Sorry.
Long
Hey,
time no
so
see.
yeah, good to see you.
Good to see you
Hey,
too.
mine is communication and taking care of things before they fall apart.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Proactive and like over communicating is definitely a skill set that's going to serve you very well and has served you very well in this business. But you know, over communicating everything is one of the ways that we can avoid things going sideways, right? Which is wonderful. Coming to you, Brandy, what's your superpower?
Well, I mean, she just kind of took mine. I mean, I put down, I'm personable.
Okay.
I definitely will be reliable and communication. But I also realized, I think in the last 6 months, I guess it's almost a year since I took over, I am pretty good about, deflecting, high strung issues. If something comes through, I'm always trying to find a way to take care of it on the backside without making it more of an issue to my buyers or my sellers.
Beautiful. So deflecting is number one, just like Jennifer said, being proactive. I can kind of sidestep people. That's a big superpower for agents. It's what our clients rely on us for, right? Like to help them sidestep a lot of pitfalls, to see things that are coming and help them navigate that so that they're not knee deep in it. That's what they need us for, right? So the reason I love this question is because we all have different superpowers. And do you think that most of our clients know what our superpowers are? Do we think that most of our clients recognize right away, even if they're making a choice to hire us, that they know what I bring to this table? And my answer to you, it's kind of rhetorical, but I would tell you that probably not, right? And so I want to make sure that you are doing what you need to make sure that people know what you bring to the table. What is it of value that you bring to the table? What is it that you have that they need? And is your superpower something that you're communicating to people? Is that in your value add? Is that in your mission statement? Is it in your materials that you hand to people? But I want you to have a revelation, and I want you to understand that you're not a bother to anybody. You actually have something of value that someone needs. You have a special skill set that separates you from the rest of the people. Everybody agree with me there? The next thing I need you to know is that I need you to be so convicted and passionate about what you do that people are convinced that you have the solution or you are the solution. You must be so strongly convicted and passionate about what it is that you do as a realtor that people know I must work with them. So, we work with a lot of agents that just barely show up. And the more and more people that get licenses and, think this is really easy and they're going to make a couple posts on Facebook and then become a millionaire, the more that happens, the more we're dealing with people who don't have the skill set and are not passionate about what we do. And I will tell you that as people start to filter out and as, the market changes and shifts, you're going to see a rise to the top of the people who are convicted and passionate about what they do. And can you articulate to your target audience and to your people that you want to work with about why you're passionate about real estate, why you're passionate about what you do? But I want you to be so strongly convicted and passionate that comes through with everyone that you talk to, that people know you are the solution. Okay. The third step is that I need you to understand that before you can overcome any objection, you must have a connected relationship in order to reach those people. There must be a high level of respect and trust already built. I don't know if anybody on the call today is a step parent, but I'll tell you, as having been a step parent formerly in my life, and having, someone else step into a role as a step parent for my own children, that's not an easy job. That's tough, right? Step kids are hard. There's always that you're not my mom, you're not my dad. But the reality is that you cannot have correction, even with your own children. You cannot have a correction without a relationship. And so I want you to think about the same thing with your clients. If you are expecting to have a correction of their mindset, a correction of their outlook on it, or their fears, or whatever their objection is, you will never be able to break that down with them unless there is a high level of respect between the two of you and a high level of rapport already established and in place. So it's fine. And I can teach you all the things to say to how to overcome objections. But the reality is that if you don't have a solid relationship of trust and respect with that client, doesn't matter what you say. It's going to fall on deaf ears, right? So what we need to do is make sure before we get real busy overcoming the objection and already having the words to say, we've got to make sure that we have a great relationship, that they trust us, that they like us, that they have a high level of respect for us. Otherwise, it doesn't matter what we say to their objection, because they're not going to hear you. Okay. They're going to be trying to combat you along the way. Does that make sense? So what I want you to know is, like, again, I need you to be convicted that what you have matters, that you have a special skill set that somebody needs. You're not bothering people. I need you to be passionate about what you do. I need you to make sure that you are building rapport and trust with your people. And then the last step of it is, I actually need you to take action. And this is why I teach this class in the South, and I always say, in the South, we don't like pushback, because that comes off as being salesy. And people in the South don't like to be salespeople, right? They like to be helpers. And so what I want you to know is that the last part of this is that you must take action. You must take relentless action to push back against the challenges or the roadblocks in your way without being adversarial. That takes a skill, right? If someone hits me with an objection and I know that objection is not based on fact, I can't just hit them with a, hey, this is based on feelings, not fact. You need to listen to me and trust me. That's not going to go over very well. And there's no rapport and trust there. There's no relationship there that is guiding them to making that decision. It's me telling them just to trust me. Anytime someone says, trust me, what should you do? Run, right? Because the people that say, trust me, are usually the ones you shouldn't trust. 9 times out of 10, right? So what I want you to understand is that we have to take action. So what I want you to commit to is, if I get a little pushback, if a client tells me, no, this isn't the right house for me. No, I'm not sure that this is the right time. I can't really afford your fee. Whatever the objection is, I want you to commit to yourself and your own career that I'm not going to put my tail between my legs and just go, okay, and run in the other direction. I'm going to meet them where they are, and I'm going to listen to what they say, and I'm going to teach you the rest of the steps of the overcoming the objection. But I want you to give yourself a fighting chance that I'm going to push back on that objection and make an attempt to overcome it. Does that sound fair? I'm not going to just take your objection and say, okay, thanks, and keep going. I'm going to attempt to try to convince you otherwise, or to find out what the root of the real problem is, because I don't want to lose a sale, right? All right, so let's talk about what an objection actually is. An objection is actually an opposition of thought, but I like to think of it as a feeling. It is basically, a lot of times the objections that we hear are based on feelings. A lot of times those objections that they actually share with you are not the actual overlying objection. They're actually not the main concern of the client. The objection is actually just what they felt safe sharing with you, but not necessarily what they're mostly concerned about. Does everybody agree with that? Mm-hmm. Right? So what we want to do is we want to make sure that whatever our client is feeling, whatever they're thinking, whatever they're afraid of, they're fearful of, anxious about, that we're getting to the root of that. And we're going to decide, is this an objection that I actually can overcome? Is it something that I can help them navigate through? Do they need more information? But what is the actual challenge here that we're dealing with? And is it valid? Is it a valid objection? Because sometimes it is. But I want you to understand that an objection is an opposition of thought. It is a feeling. An objection is not a rejection. It is simply a request for more information. So I want you to understand and tell yourself that an objection is not a rejection. But in the South, we take it as a rejection sometimes. And I know I talk about it being in the South a lot, but that's just what happens, is that when someone tells us no, we don't want to be pushy. We don't want to push back. So I want you to understand that an objection is not a rejection. It's simply a request for more information. And it's our responsibility to figure out what more information do they need. So there are 5 steps to overcoming any objection, regardless of what kind of objection it is. And again, an objection is a roadblock, something that's standing in the way of them moving forward. Your steps are, we're going to listen. I'm going to break each one of these steps down for you, but you are going to listen. You're going to acknowledge what's being said. You're going to isolate the objection, meaning you're going to move it away from all the other things. You're going to get the objection all by itself. You're going to validate how your client is feeling, and then you're going to challenge that client or reframe. So people in the South don't like the word challenge, so I also use reframe in here, just because we want to reframe it in a way where our client can make an informed decision. So let's look at this first step. The first step is to actually listen. So what is it that your client is actually saying? Well, I want you to listen carefully to the words that they're choosing, and do not listen with the intent of replying, right? A lot of times our client is giving us an objection and we're already contemplating in our mind what we're going to say back to them. And I don't want you to do that. I want you to listen to what they're actually saying. What words are they using? What are they really afraid of? And listen to what they're saying without the anticipation of replying to that. Your second step is to actually acknowledge what they're saying. So what I hear you saying is, it sounds like you really like this house, but there's this one thing that you can't get over. Or I see why you feel that way. I've had other clients that have felt that way as well. Tell me more about why you feel this way. Tell me more about what you're afraid of. Tell me more about why this scares you. Tell me more about why this house might not be right. Tell me more about why you have some concerns about the neighborhood. Dig deeper, right? I hear that a lot. I'm acknowledging what they said to me is that you're not the only one that feels this way. I do hear that a lot. I'm hearing that more frequently, more often. I have another client that recently felt that same way, and here's how we handled it. I understand that you're concerned about, right? So you're acknowledging what they're saying. I can understand why you think that, but if I could show you the data and convince you, you know, if I were able to show you the data, would you feel the same way? But acknowledging means you're going to put these phrases in your pocket, in your toolbox to use when you are hit with an objection that will help you at least let your client know that they've been heard. That is one of the biggest frustrating. You've ever been in an argument with your spouse or significant other or whoever, and you're arguing, and you know, you're arguing about this one thing over here and they're arguing about something else, and you feel like you're not even listening to what I'm saying. They're already thinking of how to combat what it is that you're talking about. And so what we want to do is make sure that our clients feel heard. We want to acknowledge the way that they feel. You do not want to be dismissive of your client's feelings or their thoughts, or even, you know, the information that they have themselves. You don't want to be dismissive of that. Dismissing their feelings is going to erode the trust that you have. That makes sense to everybody, right? Yeah. So our third step is to actually isolate the objection, to get the objection all by itself. We want the objection to be not the problem. We want the objection that they've given us to be something that we can overcome and still move forward. So what we want to do is make sure, is this the only objection they have? Is this the only thing holding them back from writing an offer? So what you want to ask is there any other reason besides this one that's keeping you from taking action today? That's an important question. These are sales skills. These are closing strategies to kind of get the person off the fence or commit or to tell you more information about whether or not they're willing to move forward. But imagine not asking this question. Is there any other reason besides this one that's keeping you from moving forward? If they say no, then you know you only have to deal with this. If they say yes, you know you've got to arm yourself with some more information to combat the other objections that they have. And this might not be the right property. This might not be the right time, whatever the situation is. So the second bullet says, are there any other concerns you have before moving forward? So are there any other issues that you think worry you about this particular concern that you're having? My favorite is, if this were not a concern, would you write the offer today? So again, let's say that they have an objection over, you know, a lack of a garage or a lack of storage or something like that. You know, if this were not a concern, would this be the right house? On a scale of 1 to 10, how big of an issue is this for you? That is a very big question because that's a qualifier. On a scale of 1 to 10, how big of an issue is this for you tells me how hard I'm going to have to work to overcome that objection. How big of a deal is this to them? If this is a 10, no matter how much I come up with and what ways I overcome it, it may not be enough. A 10 might be that this is just not going to work. But asking on a scale of 1 to 10, how big of an issue is this for you, gives me some insight as to really how they're feeling about it, but they might not be able to articulate that to you. They might not be able to explain to you exactly how big of a deal it is. So we want to make sure on a scale of 1 to 10, how big of this is for you. But you want to isolate it, because often the objection that they share with you is not really the objection that's the problem. Sometimes it is, but generally it's not. It's usually other things going on. Maybe they don't actually qualify for this much money. Maybe they aren't in agreement with their spouse on how much money they want to spend. Maybe this area or neighborhood is triggering for them from a past relationship. You never have any idea what goes on with people, but unless you ask people these questions, you won't know. So, the goal is to get their objections to the side so that you can address them and then move forward. And you may have to do that to 3 objections or 4 objections before they move forward on one particular house, or before this particular seller hires you, they may hit you with 4 or 5 different objections. We want to make sure that they are ones that we can legitimately overcome. Make sense, everybody? Okay. The next step is to validate their concern. So again, everyone likes to be validated. No one likes to feel like they're the only ones that feel this way. So you're going to use words like the following: I understand, I see. This is a very common feeling among buyers that I work with. This is a very, I've had a lot of clients that have felt this way. I've seen this before. I'm seeing a lot of this recently. It seems like you really like this property, but you're stuck on this one thing. Am I right? I have felt that way too. When I bought my first house, this is how I felt. Or, I have been in your position. We recently were looking for homes ourselves, and this is how we felt. Tell me if I heard you correctly. That's really important, because we often don't hear what people are saying. I know, again, I'll go back to arguing with your spouse. Like your spouse may say certain words, but what you heard is not what they said, right? Or vice versa. What you said, they misinterpreted and twisted your words all around. So it's really important that you say, tell me if I heard you correctly. It sounds to me like you're telling me that this house wouldn't work for you because ... right? But I think it's really important that you use their words back to them, rephrase what they say it, and how they say it, to make sure that you understood them correctly about what the actual issue is. It's okay to feel that way. I think this is really important. Often in a relationship with an agent and a client, sometimes our clients don't want to disappoint us. Sometimes they don't care. Obviously, they will, run over us with their car and keep driving and honk their horn on their way and wave. But other times they don't want to disappoint us. They don't want us to think that, we're not worthy of their time or service or whatever. And so, I think it's important to say, it's okay to be scared. It's okay to be fearful about what's going to happen. But that's where your superpower comes into play. It's okay that you are concerned. Let me tell you why I can help you with that, or how I can help you with that. But telling somebody it's okay to feel that way is validating how they feel, which makes us all feel good. Validating how you feel builds trust and rapport, right? It's natural to feel this way. I know it's scary. I can see why. It sounds like most people would agree. So again, you just want to validate what they say so that they know they're not the only ones. You also want to validate what they're saying so that you understand that you're on the same page, that you understand what they're saying. There's no misinterpretation. And you want them to know that they're not alone. It's absolutely okay that they feel this way. And then our last step is a step you guys all skip, which is the challenge part. So typically, if I went to go back to validating the concern, I might say something like, I understand that this house might feel a little small to you, or whatever it is. Let's just keep looking. We'll find another one. Well, there might be an alternative to that, and the most agents don't give the pushback to consider alternatives. So I had a client once that told me, grown man in his late 70s, early 80s, that had Asperger's. And if you've never dealt with a client that's on the spectrum, it's quite a challenge. Very rigorous standards on margins on paper and how things are written, and certain numbers were a trigger for him. It was very interesting. But they told me that they only wanted to look in one zip code in Nashville, and that zip code was Green Hills, but their budget did not afford Green Hills. And so they just kept telling me over and over and over again that we're not seeing anything we like in our price range, so we're probably going to have to rent for a year. And so obviously I had to come up with another solution for them and said, tell me a little bit more about why you've identified this zip code. Well, apparently they have some big food allergies and they shop at Whole Foods, and they chose that zip code because that's the one that's closest to the Whole Foods. So if you dig a little deeper, you'll find out that there's actually another zip code that butts up against the one that they wanted, that's actually 2 minutes longer drive to the Whole Foods, but is in their price range. Had I not dug deeper to find out why this price range, why this zip code, why is Whole Foods so important to you, I wouldn't have been able to offer another solution to them that would allow them to buy the house. And now they sing my praises to everyone, that had she not introduced this to us or given it to us as an alternative, we would have never been able to purchase here. And so I need you to understand that, you can't stop. Once you hear them, you've acknowledged what they've said, you've built some rapport with them, and they've hit you with an objection, you don't quit there. The last step is actually of giving them a little pushback and challenging and reframing. And so these are the phrases that I want you to get good at. If I could show you, so I use this one a lot with for sale by owners. So the National Association of Realtor Statistics say that for sale by owners only receive 91% of their list price on a national average. And a realtor will get 98, 99% of list price. And obviously we just came out of a market where they were even higher than that. But I use that statistic and say, Mr. and Mrs. for sale by owner, if I could show you that you can actually net more money and still pay my fee, would that be worth a conversation to you? So if I could show you that actually houses are appreciating at X% in this neighborhood, and they have consistently for the last 5 years, would that make you feel a little bit more comfortable about your investment? If I could show you how we could apply a $20,000 lender credit, how I could show you how that could save you $750 a month versus $20,000 off the price only saves you $150 a month, would that make more sense for you? You need to be able to offer alternatives. You need to be able to offer solutions to whatever their challenge was. If I could show you, if I had a solution for this problem, would you be willing to move forward? Remember, when they hit you with the objection, oh my gosh, I can't live here. I don't like the highway noise. Well, you might not be able to overcome that. But if we had a solution for that, if we could minimize that or mitigate that, would that be something you would want to move forward on? Does that make sense? If I brought you something that you couldn't turn down, would you consider selling? If we were able to still find a way to put in an extra half bath here, if we were able to, show you how staged homes sell for, 33% more than unstaged homes, whatever the data is. If I were able to do those things, would you be ready to move forward? How would you, here's one of my favorites. How would you feel if I had to call you tomorrow and this home wasn't available any longer? So we just came off a really hot market in Nashville, obviously. We still have a pretty hot seller's market. But we didn't even have time. People didn't, they didn't have time to actually go home and think about it, mull about it, do some research, research anything. They just had to go through the house. They had 7 minutes to figure it out because there was also another showing right behind them. And then they had to go write an offer. They didn't get to do any research or do any homework. And so now we get to say things like, but the same situation applied that, clients would say, well, I love this house, but I don't really want to pay that much. And so I've used this particular phrase many times with that and said, what if I had to call you tomorrow and told you that it actually sold for $2,000 over what you were wanting to offer? Would you have paid that same price? 9 times out of 10, the answer is yes. Which is why also don't give your clients, when they ask you, what should we offer? You really shouldn't be throwing out a price for them. You should be giving them a range. You should be giving them the data and say, you need to decide for yourself how much you want to offer. The problem is, the reason why I don't do that is because I have lost offers where someone did offer $1,000 more or, $1,200 more, whatever the amount is. And my client was sick to their stomach that they didn't win. And they would have paid more than that, but I told them a certain price and they went with what I told them. But we have no way of knowing what other offers are out there, right? So always present it to your client by saying, if I had to call you tomorrow and tell you that this home was no longer available, how would that make you feel? And if that's how you would feel, my suggestion to you is you write the best offer that you feel comfortable with. And what does that look like to you? Right? But when you're the one offering the numbers and someone else swoops in with a better number, you're the loser and they're going to be upset, right? At you. If I found a house that met 85% of what you're looking for, would you be able to move forward or would you be interested in moving forward? This is especially important because a lot of the objections that our buyer clients give us are very specific to their tastes, right? I don't like the floor plan. I don't like the layout. It's not big enough. I don't like the yard, blah, 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 blah. And chances are you've worked with a client who has dragged you around for a year or more, wanting to see every house in town. Some people have been working with some clients for 2 years and there's never going to be a perfect house for them. So you need to use phrases like this. Hey, we're not looking for 100%. We're looking for 80 or 90%. And if I found you 85 or 90%, would that make you comfortable enough to move forward? Okay. But I want you to not be afraid of challenging them. I want you to not be afraid of actually pushing back on them. And I want you to understand that, again, if you remember that the definition of objection is opposition of thought or a feeling, then your job is to actually present them with data, present them with alternative thoughts or alternative feelings. Okay. You don't just put your tail between your legs and say, okay, we'll find another one, right? Because y'all gonna be hungry in this new market that we're about to have. You're gonna be real hungry. Okay. So you need to push back on them. You need to make feel comfortable, but you can only do that from a place of trust and rapport. All right. So let's practice because the reality is that there are a lot of objections that you're going to hear. I do want to point out one thing to you is that if you are not a scripts person, and most people are not scripts people, they don't love scripts. People will tell me all the time, I don't love scripts because I don't want to be robotic or, it doesn't sound like me. But I'll tell you what scripts do. Scripts give you the language where the language does not already exist. And when you practice the scripts, when you get hit with these objections, the language is already there for you to use. And it comes out with your style. It comes out with your personality. If you're Kaylin Evans, it comes out with a joke. But it comes out your way. And the more you practice it, the more comfortable you get with it, then the more it is your language. But practicing the scripts tells you and gives you the words that you need in order to be able to, combat whatever it is they're saying so that you don't freeze when someone hits you with the roadblock. All right, so let's talk about common objections we hear. The price is too high. And again, right now, people are feeling like there should be deals to be had. Are you experiencing that, any of you?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. So because interest rates are high and things are sitting on the market a little bit longer, everyone seems to think that now that means that there's deals to be had. But the reality is that in our market, we haven't seen drastic price reductions across the board everywhere. We're still seeing high percent list price to sales price ratios. We are also seeing some price reductions, but here's what I'll tell you about those price reductions. A lot of them are because agents have never sold in this kind of market before. They've never sold in any market other than the one we've had in the last 5 years. And so when a house didn't sell in 5 days, what was the first thing you did? Oh, we must be overpriced. So they're dropping the price. But the reality is that it's not the price so much. It's just it needs more days on the market, right? So if someone were to hit you with the price is too high, let's start with our steps. Remember the steps for overcoming objections. Our first goal is to listen. So someone tells me the price is too high. Second step is to acknowledge. How would you acknowledge someone that says the price is too high? Anybody have one they want to add?
Would you ask him a question like in comparison to what?
You can, if you want to dig a little deeper. Remember, acknowledgement is kind of saying what it sounds to me is like you're looking for a deal. It sounds to me like you're wanting to save a little money, right? Or tell me more about why you feel like this is priced too high. That's a good one because guess what? Most of the things that they tell you about why it's priced too high have nothing to do with the data. They have to do with their feelings. Oh, well, we're going to have to do all this work. Well, the work that you're wanting to do, is that cosmetic in nature? Is it structural in nature? Is it based on your lifestyle and your taste? Is that a reflection of the price of how much it's worth, or how much it's worth to you? Right. And so, I hear that a lot. The price may seem too high. Why do you feel like it's too high? I understand that you're concerned about the price being too high. So again, let's stay there. I understand you're concerned. Isolating the objection, getting it all over by itself. Is there any other concern you have besides the price? Right? If price wasn't an issue, would you be ready to move forward on this property? Or if you felt better about the price, would you be ready to move forward with the property? Everybody following how I'm going through the steps?
Yes.
Okay. And then obviously we want to validate how they feel. Like, I understand you want a deal. I understand. I don't want you to overpay. Remember, I'm on your team. This is the other part that I skipped when I was talking about validating. The biggest way that you can build rapport and trust with your client is not just listen to what they're saying, acknowledging it, validating it, and then hitting it back with a response, but basically letting them know, hey, I'm on your side. I'm here to work for you. I'm here on your team. It is the number one objection overcomer that I use that says, hey, my job is to represent you so that, in doing what you want to do and in advising you to make good choices, my job is to work with you on your team to help you get the best deal. But I also don't want you to lose out on a house that your wife loves so much. You ready for some manipulation? Here comes a good one. Manipulation, sales tactic, call it what you want. I understand that you feel like this price is too high, but your wife and I stood in the backyard and she was already naming those babies y'all don't have yet. And she told me she could see him running around in that backyard. Does that make sense? I mean, it's true.
Yep.
It happens, but guess what? When you tell the client that, is price all of a sudden the biggest issue? Or is it making your wife happy the bigger issue? Right? So you've got to make sure that you understand, you use the tools that you have available to you. I don't mean to make it sound like in a manipulative way that's like, but I am preying on their emotions, because price in terms, and remember your other tool here is the difference between 615 and 620 in a 30-year mortgage is how many dollars? It's like 12, right? The difference in 615 and 620 and $5,000 is $6. It's not that much money, right? $5,000 is a lot of money, but when you amortize it over 30 years in a loan, it's not that big of a difference, right? So you want to make sure you're presenting those kind of data to them, that kind of information to them. You want to make sure that you're isolating the objection that they told you about. Is this the only concern you have with this house about the price, right? And then hit them back with some data. If I could show you that it's only $6 more, the difference between 615 and 620 is only $7, $8, whatever it is. Would that make you feel more comfortable about moving forward? Right? Everybody understand how we went through all those steps for just that one? Okay. I'm not going to do that for every single one of them, but I will tell you some key things that I would make sure I point out for these. This isn't the right time for us. So this is a big one that you want to get down to. What about the timing feels off? Right? Do they feel like they need to save more money? Are they in a lease? Have they investigated what it would cost to break that lease or to terminate that lease? Do they have any other options besides terminating the lease? Do they know someone who could take over their lease for them? Whatever it is, but talk to me about why this isn't the right time for you, right? And then sometimes I will use phrases like, it's kind of like having a baby. It's never the right time. You just do, right? You don't regret it after the fact. You just do. Some people do, but you know what I mean. But it's like having a baby. It's never the right time, but it's always the right time to buy real estate versus paying rent, right? Or whatever that is. But you need to figure out what's the right time. What's their thing about it not being the right time. I'm not sure about this neighborhood. So be careful here. Because again, you're going to run into situations where there may be some fair housing statements, there may be some racist statements, there may be some ugly statements, whatever they are. But your job is to arm them with facts and information, be the source of the source, be a source of the resource for them. But I'm not sure about this neighborhood. So one of the things that I say when I hear this often is, tell me what your biggest concern is about the neighborhood. Tell me more about it. Often they will go with, well, I just want to make sure that I want to make money off of my investment, right? Or I'm just not sure that the neighborhood's going to hold its value or something like that. So then you're going to reframe it and say, or acknowledge what they're saying. What I hear you saying is that you're concerned about making a good investment on this property. If I could show you that houses in this neighborhood have appreciated year over year, a minimum of 12% the last 3 years in a row, would that make you feel a little bit more comfortable about the appreciation in the neighborhood? I also am a storyteller. So my very first house, I bought, kind of in an up and coming neighborhood, as we call them. And my mother was terrified that I bought a house. And my mother was a realtor, so go figure. But she was terrified that I bought a house in this neighborhood. And she said, I can't believe you bought a house almost in the ghetto. And I said, well, this is what we could afford. And this is what we wanted to spend. We doubled our money in 3 years. And that didn't come without growing pains. We had to deal with construction around us. We had to deal with, the neighborhood revitalizing and all that entails. But what I wanted my clients to hold on to is that I doubled my money in 3 years. So if they're really interested in investment, sometimes feeling not sure about the neighborhood is the best place for them to spend their money, right? But you've got to talk them through that. Everybody feel comfortable with that one? All right. I don't like the countertops, or I don't like the paint color. These are easy. These are home runs, right? So for us, I don't like the countertops. I don't like the paint. Remember, buyers always overestimate what it costs to repair things, right? So they think it costs $10,000 to paint the whole house, and it's like a 1,000 square foot house. That's not true. They also think it costs like, 10 grand to rip up one bedroom carpet, so you want to give them accurate estimates of what it actually costs to do things. And if you need to get a contractor in there to get them an estimate so they feel better about it, you can do that if you can find one. But you want to remind them, hey, the wonderful, beautiful thing about buying a house is that you get to make it your own over time. And are these countertops ones that you couldn't live with for a day? Or there's something you feel like you would have to replace right away before you can move in? And guide them through that, right? Make sense? I would have to put too much money into it. So that's the part where, again, my superpower is protecting your investment, making sure that I'm properly advising you not to over improve your house, or the best ways for you to spend your money when you are renovating your house. Let's talk about some of the renovations that you would want to make and what those look like. And could we conceivably do those without over improving the house for the neighborhood? All right, this next one is one of my favorites because everyone gets it. I'm going to use my Aunt Linda, who's a realtor. All right, so first of all, let's go back through the steps on this one because I just want to drill home that you're following the steps on the objections, which is listening to what they're saying. So what I hear you saying is your Aunt Linda is a realtor. You really love your Aunt Linda, and I'm sure you want to be invited to Thanksgiving dinner and you don't want that to be awkward, right? So that's me using my humor. Like, you want to make sure you can come to Thanksgiving dinner and you don't want to miss Aunt Linda's sweet potato pie this year. I hear you. That is totally a concern. Acknowledging how they feel. I understand. I've had family members who didn't want to work with me as well, or I've had family members. I wouldn't want to ruin a relationship you have with Aunt Linda. How I would isolate that objection and say, if there were a way that Linda could be involved in this transaction where either I paid her a referral fee or she was part of the transaction and she and I worked out the commission, would you feel comfortable moving forward working with me and Aunt Linda? But that would only matter if you were willing to do that. But that's how I've overcome Aunt Linda sometimes. The other part is Aunt Linda. Tell me a little bit more about Aunt Linda's experience. What does your relationship with Aunt Linda look like? Is this a relationship you really want to protect? Or what is your fear about not working with Aunt Linda? Are you afraid your mom's never going to speak to you again? That's not going to happen. But is she going to be upset with you? talk to me a little bit more about why you feel obligated to use Aunt Linda. And then you always want to use the family and business part that, sometimes working with family is not in your best interest. Sometimes working with your family that maybe doesn't have the superpower I do, maybe doesn't have the experience that I do, maybe doesn't know this area the way that I do, whatever it is that you want to use to compare with Aunt Linda, you've got to separate Aunt Linda from this deal. Or you need to figure out a way, can I get you through this with Aunt Linda? Is there a way we can make this work? If Aunt Linda's brand new, I want to bring her in on the transaction, train her right alongside me. That way she gets experience and she gets paid a little bit of money, but I didn't lose the whole deal. But that's dependent on you, right? And how you operate your business. I don't want to sign a contract with you. I'm not signing a buyer broker agreement. So we've heard that before. There are some agents, and I've worked on teams where my team leader basically said, if you don't want to sign a contract with you, our meeting is over, and they've gotten up and walked out of the room. So I want to remind you guys that when you are forcing people to sign buyer broker agreements and you're shoving contracts at people, again, without a rapport, without trust, you shouldn't be shoving contracts at anybody and asking them to marry you on the first date. You've got to build the trust with them. You've got to get them to like you. You want to decide if you want to work with them too. And so we want to make sure. And so what we want to say is, talk to me a little bit about why you're hesitant about committing to working with me. Is there something that I have not shown you yet for you to know and trust that I'm the right one for the job? That's a very good question. Is there something that I have not shared with you, or have I not given you enough information to make you want to hire me to be your agent? Because the answer to that question tells you everything you need to know. How many more times are you going to put these people in your car and drive them around when they're already telling you they don't want to commit to you, and that they're likely not going to commit to you, right? So here's what I'll tell you. If you don't want to sign a contract with me after I've spent some time building rapport and trust with you, and you tell me I'm not signing that with you, that's totally fine with me. But you're not going to get the benefit of my A time. My A time is reserved for people who hire me exclusively to work for them. Those people are going to be the benefits of my A time. Okay. Can you just show me the house? Well, I don't know about you, but I'm not just a door opener. My skill set and my power and my superpower and my experience is not just to open a door. Any monkey with a real estate license can do that, right? So can you just show me the house? I'm going to have to ask some more questions. Like, beyond looking at the house, what is your biggest concern? Do you already have an agent? Are you already working with an agent? I want to remind you guys too, and if you've taken any of my classes before, you might know the answer to this, but like, if you ask people, are you already working with an agent, and you phrase it like that, what's the answer going to be? Are you already working with an agent?
Yes.
The answer is always going to be yes, right? I'm working with 10 of them. I got 12 of them sending me listings right now, right? But the way that I phrase it is, have you signed a legally binding contract hiring someone to be your exclusive realtor? The answer to that 9 times out of 10 is no, which means they're fair game. They're open for me to love on them and make them my best friends for life based on the answer to that. Have you entered into a legally binding contract to hire someone to be your agent? Hi, Kenton. Right? So, but if you ask them, have you entered into have you signed a legally binding contract hiring someone to be your exclusive agent yet? If you start asking it that way, you're going to get a lot more honest answers. You're also going to know right up front whether or not you're wasting your time or whether or not you have an opportunity to convert this person to be your client. I will tell you, if you're sitting in an open house and you ask someone, are you already working with an agent? You've already lost the battle, because the answer is going to be, yes, I'm already working with an agent because I don't want you hounding me and I don't want you bothering me. Right? And I'm going to lie to you and I'm going to say yes, or I'm going to say yes. But here's the thing. The consumers may not have signed a buyer broker agreement with any agent, but they have 12 of them sending them properties. So the answer to your question is true. I am working with other agents, but I'm not working exclusively with one agent that I've signed a contract with yet. And that's what I need to know. Okay. Don't skip an opportunity to pick up potential buyers because you've asked the question the wrong way. All right, let's just offer X and see what they say. We've all gotten this one, right? Let's just start out. Oh, I had one actually last week. The list price was $650 and the client wanted to offer $6 because everybody wants a deal. And in their mind, it was overpriced. And so they wanted to offer $6. And so how I would respond to that is, I hear you. I hear what you're saying. I understand that you feel like you want to offer less than list price. Tell me a little bit more about why. Tell me how you're feeling about the data that I've shown you. And if I've shown you that the list price to sales price ratio is actually closer to 99%, what makes you think that the seller is going to be willing to take 92% or 90% when it's only been on the market 2 days? Right? So you've got to hit them with data. Anytime someone talks about the price, let's just offer X and see what they say. You must hit them with data first. And I'm assuming that the data is in the favor of the listing agent that shows that it's properly priced, even though you and I both know that's probably not always true. But let's just offer X and see what they say, right? Your other important part of this is your advisory role in saying, we may not get another chance. If you're hoping, it sounds to me like you're hoping that they make a counteroffer and that we get to negotiate, right? Because if somebody says, let's just offer X and see what they say, chances are they're hoping the seller's going to make a counteroffer, right? And so what we want to say is, we might not get an option or an opportunity to make a counteroffer. How would that make you feel? If the house is sold out from under you because you tried to get it for $6 and somebody else swooped in at $640 or $635, would you be upset that they don't give you an opportunity to make a counteroffer? Right? I don't have time to meet with you before looking at houses. So again, I'm always trying to get someone to sit down with me to do a buyer broker consultation, to do talk about how we work, what makes me different, what they can expect, how we're going to work together. Again, that's part of building the rapport and the trust with my client. Often, sometimes, especially if you're doing Zillow leads or any other type like that, you will meet the client for the first time at the property. And so, number one, I want you to be safe. And number two, I want you to use your skill set to vet people and make sure that they're real people. And if people say, I don't have time to meet with you ahead of time, I just want to look at houses, you should trust your gut and you should figure out why they're doing that, right? If they're saying they don't have time to meet with you. But again, so it sounds to me like you're really busy. I am too, 100%. Want to make sure that I'm respectful of your time. But I want to find out why, what's most important to them. And is this my process important to them as far as making a decision? We want to sleep on it, pray on it, think about it. Totally get that. It sounds to me like you want to make sure you're making the right decision for you and your family. Totally respect that. And I want you to. I want you to make sure that you're choosing the right house for you. But what you might want to say next is there something about the house that you're not sure about? Remember, I want to get the isolation, but I want to isolate the objection all by itself. Is there something about this house that you're not 100% sure about yet? What would that be? Right? Or I want to sleep on it. Do you feel like you're moving a little quickly? Maybe that's them telling you they need to slow down a little bit. They're not quite ready. We want to pray on it. We want to think about it. Is there more research that we need to do to make them make a better informed decision? Do they need more information about the neighborhood? Do they need more information about whatever? Right? Why do I need a realtor? I totally understand. I get this a lot of, especially in the market we just came out of, a lot of people don't feel like they need an agent. But talk to me about your experience working with an agent before or a realtor before. Is there something different? Maybe I could offer a different perspective. I had a seller fire me this month that she told me straight up to my face, I don't have a lot of respect for agents, period. And when they tell you things like that, you should listen to them, because she was right. And she showed me how much respect she had for our profession and for me as a person. And so I would just ask them, have you worked with a realtor before? Was there a concern that you had? Why is it that you're not wanting to work for a realtor? Don't be afraid to ask your clients, what are you afraid of? What is concerning you? Like, what's your biggest fear in terms of hiring a realtor? I love everything about this house, but that's a great one because they're telling you they love everything except for this one thing. So how can you overcome that one? I'm not sure we can afford to buy right now. This is kind of an open-ended one. I would dig a little deeper on this one and find out, you know, are you concerned about your down payment? Are you concerned about your closing costs? Are you concerned about not having enough in savings? Are you even informed about how much you actually need to be able to buy, right? So you want to get to the bottom of what their concern is about being able to afford. Is it the interest rate? You know, maybe they need to go in a lower payment because the payment is too high at this interest rate, or maybe we offer some other solutions to buy down the rate, right? We are probably just going to rent for a year. This one we get a lot because people get frustrated with the market. They can't find what they're looking for. So we're probably just going to rent for a year, I would find out. Well, let's talk about what that would look like, right? And compare for them. If if we're successful in buying this house now, what could that look like for your family a year from now? How much equity would you potentially have been given up by waiting for a year? What are the interest rates could look like in a year from now? What about your buying power in a year from now? Maybe one of you might lose your job. One of your credit scores might tank in a year from now. How could all of that affect or impact your ability to buy a year from now? And have you considered those things, right? When they say we're probably just going to rent for a year, you don't say, okay, thanks. I'll keep in touch with you over the year and we'll try again next year. You want to find out more, right? Maybe they're just frustrated. They need a break for a week. Maybe you need to recircle and circle back around and kind of regroup and talk about, maybe we can adjust our criteria to help you be a little bit more successful. I want to offer X, which is like 25% below list price. Remember, I want to remind you, always pull the data on what the list price to sales price ratio is in that neighborhood, that zip code, that area, right? And if I can show you that houses in our area are not selling below 95% of list price, I just want to warn you that it's highly unlikely that your offer will be accepted. And as somebody who's on your team and working on your behalf to help you be successful, I think you could run the risk of insulting the seller and them not wanting to deal with you or work with you at all. So if you really love this house, I would caution you against that, right? I heard the market's going to crash. All right. This is one we get all the time right now. So what kind of things do you think you need to address with, I heard the market's going to crash? I just want to make sure y'all are still awake on me. I didn't put you to sleep. Anybody still there? Kaylin's there.
Sure.
What did you say?
I'm here, but I don't know what they're really worried about.
Right. I heard the market is going to crash. So if you don't know what they're really worried about, how do you ask that question?
What are you worried about?
Tell me a little bit more about why you think the market's going to crash. Oh, I heard on the news, right? Oh, I saw some article by somebody, I was watching, whatever, right? But tell me why you believe the market is going to crash, right? Or I totally understand why you may feel that way. It's a little scary right now. Remember, this is part of my validation, making them feel heard. I totally understand it's scary right now. Everything is more expensive, from gas to groceries, everything is going up. But I will tell you, we're not in the same market we were in 2008 to 2010. And here's why, right? In order to combat this particular objection, you have to arm yourself with data that talks to them about when the market did crash previously in your area, there were probably 3 factors that existed, like rising interest rates, which we have right now, a recession, which we have right now, but we also had a lack of a major overproduction of inventory. There were way too many houses on the market for sale, right? We don't have that third thing right now. What we have is still a seller's market, a healthy seller's market. In my market, I have less than 2.5 months worth of inventory. You should know how many months inventory you have in your city or in the area you specialize in, the area that you're showing property, whatever it is. If you have less than 6 months inventory, like less than 7, you're still in a healthy seller's to a balanced market. Remember, anything less than 5 is a seller's market. And that 6 is a stable market, and then 7 and above is a buyer's market. So as long as it's still a healthy seller's market, we don't have an overabundance of inventory, and a lack of inventory still drives real estate sales. That is not an indicator of a market crash. So you need to know that. You need to be able to explain that to people. The second thing you need to arm yourself with is how much are houses coming down, if they are, in your market? And is it across the board, or is it only in certain price ranges? So in my market, I could look right now and tell you that the houses priced above 800,000 in some zip codes are absolutely coming down about 3 to 5% right now over 30 days easily. And then in other price ranges, still under 400,000, they're still selling in less than 10 days. So that is not indicative of a market crash. It's indicative of correction. The third stat that I want to arm you with is that what companies or businesses are moving to your area. So in Nashville, I can talk all day about 5 hedge funds buying up properties to the tune of 30 to 40 a month, about Fortune 50 companies placing their headquarters in the Nashville area that are attracting thousands of employees. All of those indicators are indicators of strong, healthy real estate markets, regardless of what you're hearing on the news. And I also want you to tell your clients, the news wants you to focus on increasing gas prices, inflation, and higher interest rates. But guess what? People are still buying and selling houses. That's not what they're talking about, though. And when I first got into the business, I sold houses in double-digit interest rates, and people still bought houses, right? So you want to isolate what their concern is. Why do they feel like the market is going to crash? Do they just feel like they heard it on the news? Are they scared? Are they worried that they're going to lose money on a house? And I want you to remind your people, real estate is and always has been a secure, long-term investment. The issue is that people have looked at real estate recently in the last 5 years as a short-term investment. Oh, I can double my money in 3 years, or I can, make 50%, in over the course of 5 years, or I can make $100,000 off this house in a year. That's not typical of real estate. So we're not going to expect those atypical results. But what you can expect is 7, 10, 12, 15, whatever the percent of appreciation is in your market, you can expect that to continue, right? That's a healthy investment for your money. You're not going to lose your shirt unless you have to sell your house in a year. Is your plan to sell your house in a year? No, we're going to live in this house for 7 to 10 years. Then this doesn't apply to you. Don't worry about the market crashing. That's not a concern. But you can't just tell someone, don't worry about it. You have to show them, right? You have to talk them through it. You have to let them understand that you do know how they feel. And trust me, I want to make sure that you have a safe investment with your money too. But I want you to not act on feelings. I want you to act on data. And I want to arm you with the data that helps you make an informed decision, because I'm on your team, right? I'm reiterating that, because guess whose team I'm on? Yours. They need to know you're working on their behalf, especially when your clients want to have conversations about price. I have always had clients that when I'm trying to guide them towards the price and they're trying to lowball, and I'm trying to get them to come up because I think that's going to help them be more successful in getting their offer accepted. They always want to say, well, you just want to make more money. And so I'm very quick to tell them, listen, I have 2 boys, 21 and 18. And I promise you the difference between you paying $425 and $430 isn't going to feed my children for more than 2 days. So it's not about the money, right? They need to know that. It's not about the money. I'm not trying to get you to pay more money so that I make more money. The $7 isn't going to last me a gas tank, right? The $14, whatever it is, they don't know that though. They don't know how you get paid and how much you get paid. But I promise you, they think that you're trying to push them to spend more money because you make more money. And really, we don't make that much more money between $425 and $430, right? They don't know that though. So you got to show them that. You got to tell them that. Make sense? Y'all sticking with me? Do you want to hit some of these seller ones now?
Yes.
All right, let's go to these common seller objections we hear. We want someone with more experience. Okay. This one's really hard when you're a brand new agent or a newer agent. My first thing that I would ask them is, how much experience are you hoping that the person has? Describe to me who your ideal agent is. Tell me a little bit more about who that person is and what they bring to the table. Because I would counter that and say, I totally understand that, that you might want someone with more experience. However, I will tell you, because I don't have 30 other listings, I have more time to dedicate to you, right? Because I'm newer in the business, I actually have more innovative, creative ways to market and sell your house, because I haven't been doing this the same way for 50 years, right? I think outside the box. I have innovative marketing strategies that only newer people might have. Does that make sense? All right, we need to think about it. That's the one that I'm always going to say, is there something that I have not told you, or something you were hoping to hear during this presentation that would tell you right away that I'm the right person for the job? Or is there something I have not told you to tell you enough to hire me today? We are interviewing other agents. Great. I love the fact that you're interviewing other agents. I want you to interview other agents. I want you to see what other agents bring to the table and what their superpowers are. And at the end of the day, I want you to hire me because you believe I'm the best person to market and sell your house. And the fact that you're interviewing other agents, I welcome. I want you to know what else is out there. Because I promise you, once they interview other agents and they interview me, more than likely they're going to come back to me, because what I bring to the table is so different. And I'm very confident in my presentation, I'm very confident in my skill set, that it's okay that they're interviewing other agents. That doesn't bother me. And I would say to them, I understand. I want you to make the best decision for your family, the best decision for you. This is a large purchase, large sale, whatever it is. I want you to make the best decision. I want to make sure that you find the right fit, right? That's important. This one is a beauty. Another agent is willing to charge us X%. You can always find somebody to do it cheaper, always. But sometimes you get what you pay for, right? And so then I would go through and I would say, totally understand. It sounds to me like you might be interested in hiring this person because they're willing to do it for less money. Let's talk a little bit about that less money. So this is when I taught this class in person, I actually brought 6 $1 bills and I did this demonstration. So you'll have to pretend with me that I have 6 $1 bills with me. I just never have cash. So there's that. I had to borrow it from the people in the class when I taught it. But I would literally, anytime you have a seller that comes to you and says, you know, so-and-so said they would do it for less, whatever that less is, I would lay my 6 $1 bills out and I said, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, these 6 $1 bills represent my fee that I charge, my professional services fee that I charge to market and sell your house. Okay. We've already agreed that 3 of these are going to get paid to the buyer's agent. And I'm just talking in generalities, obviously using 6% or 3 or whatever. I'm just using random numbers. But if I had 6 $1 bills laid out, 3 of these are actually going to go to pay the buyer's agent for bringing us a ready, willing, and able buyer. Okay. So those 3 are gone. And I moved those 3 over to the side of the table. I'm left with $3 left. One of those dollars goes to pay my broker. One goes to pay Uncle Sam. And the one that's left is the one that I use for my marketing expenses and my operating expenses. When you show them those $6 and how they're all accounted for, they don't beat you up as much, because which one would they tell you to give up? The one that goes to your broker? You can't. The one that goes to Uncle Sam? You can't, unless you want to go to jail. And stripes, I don't like stripes, and orange ain't my color. So that's not going to happen. So the only one that's left is your marketing expenses and your operating expenses. This is what I use to feed my family. This is how I earn my living. People are less likely to beat you up over that $1 that's left for you when you show it to them in this visual way. Does that make sense to everybody?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I love that.
It's a visual representation of that pot of money, but you're breaking it down into 6 $1, which doesn't make it seem like it's as much money. It's a psychological thing, but you're showing them that it's all accounted for. Because if you don't, guess which one they try to get rid of? The one that's yours, right? So try that next time. It's very effective. I promise you. Just keep 6 $1 bills in your laptop bag or something to use for your listing presentation. But a visual representation of how the money is divvied up also helps with combating them trying to take one of those dollars away, or more. Some of them. I will also tell you this: in 25 years, every person that I've ever given a discount to not talking about somebody who buys and sells from me, but somebody who's just, beat me up on the commission or on the fee. Every person that I ever cut my fee for in order to get that listing did not need the money. They didn't need it. They wanted it. That's a difference. Okay. Unless you're in you're philanthropic and you're running some charity. This is a business. And I need that $1 because that's how I pay my bills. Okay. I was going to tell you something else about that. About the commission part is that, remember, I don't call it commission. It's my professional services fee. The word commission to me implies you are overpaid. When people get paid on commission or they get paid a commission from selling something, it means that the price is usually bumped up so that they can pay that person the commission, right? So I don't use the word commission. It's a professional services fee. Okay. Another agent said my house is worth X. Okay, I could line up 10 agents in this room and you're going to get 10 different values. The reason is because there actually is no specific training involved that tells people how to evaluate houses down to a penny. And so we can have 10 different people in here with 10 different values. But the line that I told you guys to memorize, and I'll say it again for Sarah and Jennifer, because you guys weren't in this class, but I taught a listing specialist class. And this is a phrase I want you to memorize, which is, I don't want you to hire me based on the price I tell you your house is worth. I want you to hire me because you believe I'm the best person to market and sell your home. You and I will arrive at a price together. The reason you're doing that is because I don't want to lose a listing over someone coming in the door behind me saying that they could sell it for $5,000 more than what I said. Because chances are I might still be okay with $5,000 more. And really it's the seller's decision about the way we price the house with my guidance. But I want them to hire me because they think I'm the best person to market and sell their house. And as a team working together, we'll arrive at the price that's right. Okay. But I don't want you to hire me based on what I tell you it's worth. You and I will arrive at that price together. Got it? Memorize it. Why do I need a realtor? We kind of covered on the buyer side. We're considering for sale by owner. You can just bring us a buyer. So again,
Laura,
yes, dear.
I'm sorry. Can you say that one more time? I just want to make sure I've got it written right.
I can. I feel like I want to get it on a sign put like behind my head because I repeat it all the time. And it's one that's really a good one. I don't want you to hire me based on the price that I tell you your house is worth. I want you to hire me because you believe I'm the best person to market and sell your home. You and I will arrive at a price together.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. We are considering for sale by owner. You can just bring us a buyer. So number one, I want to know, why are they considering for sale by owner? It sounds to me like you are considering trying to sell the house yourself. Can you talk to me a little bit more about why? What's the number one reason people sell their house for sale by owner? Money, commission, and trying to save money, right? So that's where you're going to hit them with. It sounds to me like you would consider selling yourself because you want to sell money. If I could show you, this is where that line, if I could show you that for sale by owners, statistically, nationally, only receive 91% of their list price compared to 98 or 99% of the list price when listed with a realtor. If I could show you that you could actually net more money with still paying my fee, would that be worth a conversation to you? Would you be willing to consider hiring me instead of trying to do it yourself? The other part that I would combat with that, when someone says, we're going to try to sell it ourselves, I'm going to show them the 183 things that a realtor does to sell a house. Are you knowledgeable about how to do a whole 183 things? Because we're no longer in the market where the house sold itself. And we're not going to be in the market where the house sells itself for quite some time. Right? You need skilled professional that actually is going to market your property with innovative and creative marketing ideas. You with me there?
Oh yeah.
Right. We are afraid we won't find a new home we love. That's a legitimate concern, right? Especially when you have low inventory. There's not as much to choose from. We're afraid that if we sell our house, we'll have nowhere to go, or we're afraid that we won't find something that we love as much. And that's when we want to go back to well, if I could find you 90% of what you're looking for, if I could find you 85 or 90%, would you be ready to move forward? I think my house is worth X. Well, I know you brought your baby. Here's the validation. I know you brought your babies home here. You've got a lot of memories here. I know that this is where your favorite dog is buried in the yard, whatever the things are. Like, I 100% understand that, you've got a lot of emotions tied up in this house. And I think you have a lovely home. I think it's beautiful. But I need to be honest with you, and you don't hire me to tell you what you want to hear. You hire me to tell you what the market says your house is worth. And according to the data, your house is actually worth this. According to the data, houses similar to yours with similar features, similar upgrades, similar age, similar square footage, all have sold on average this price per square foot. What about your house makes it more than that price per square foot? We already talked about let's just price it at X and see what happens. It's the same thing with the buyer side, is that overpricing the house in a changing market is dangerous to us, because we're going to get the most amount of attention and attraction on a property within the first 30 days it's on the market. Within the first 7, you're going to get the most amount of attention, right? And so if we overprice it, we risk losing that attention in those first 7 days. And then we're going to spend the rest of the days on the market trying to catch up to the price and the attention. So the attention graphic goes down, and the price is continuing to go this way, the amount of traffic that you actually get. And so we're never going to meet in the middle, and we're going to spend our time actually trying to catch the market by making reductions. Then it starts to sit on the market longer, and it looks stale, and people start to question what's wrong with it, because it's been on the market 30 days or 60 days or whatever, right? So let's just price it at X and see what happens. I'm not the kind of gal that you hire just to see what happens. I have a strategic plan and a strategic pricing strategy. I have a pricing strategy that I use to make sure that it's seen by the most amount of people, and that it's targeted to the people who are more likely the people who are going to buy the house, right? I'm not taking a dime less than X. So if I have a seller that tells me that, I'm not going to take a dime less than X. I'm going to tell you right now, you're going to spend a lot of time and effort and money and energy getting a ready, willing, and able buyer teed up on a platter to them, and they're going to look at it and go, spit on it, right? They're going to say, no, I'm not doing that, right? So what we're going to say is, when we have this conversation, we're going to say, I understand that, I've told you that your home, the market says your home is worth this. You're telling me that you won't sell it for less than that. But what I want to make sure is that we're having realistic expectations, that just like you are probably going to be when you go to buy a house, you're going to find that there's going to be clients that are going to want to try to get a deal, right? Everyone wants a deal. And I always tell them that everyone wants a deal. So don't be offended and don't be upset when someone tries to give you an offer that's less than what your number is, or what number it is that we put on the list price. I would say that remind them that there's also 16 other terms, or whatever number there are in Oklahoma, but there are lots of other terms for us to work with on this contract. So it's not just price. Let's look at all the other terms there are, and we'll see from there whether or not that matters. Cash could matter, closing date could matter, closing costs could matter, all kinds of things impact the overall deal and how happy you as a seller are. Let's take a look and see what it looks like at that time. Okay. We don't want a sign in the yard. Again, I would arm them with statistics that talk to them about, what percentage of buyers actually buy their house from seeing a yard sign. It's a very low percentage. It's probably less than 7. I think the last time I looked at the data, it's like yard signs were less than 10% of how a buyer found their house, because they start where? Online, right? So the yard sign is not why somebody would buy the house, but what the yard sign does is help get exposure for me. It also would help any traffic of any neighbors and allow the neighbor to see that their house is coming on the market and that they may want to choose their neighbor. So yard signs can be effective, but they are less than 10%. So I don't get hung up on that one as much. Why do I have to take my pictures and deer heads down? I know you're laughing at me, Brandy, but I know you've seen this, right? They have all kinds of things. Like I actually showed a house to Reba McIntyre that had a full basement full of taxidermied animals. Like when I say full, I mean every animal I've ever seen. I felt like I was at a zoo. They were all stuffed, mounted. I mean, bazillions of dollars worth of taxidermied animals down there. But as a seller, your seller, again, how would you overcome this question? It says, why do I have to take down my pictures and my deer heads down? Come on, y'all.
Do you have to acknowledge that you think they're special?
Yes, yes. That was one of the, that's the reason why I asked you, is because even if you are terrified of a mountain lion with its fangs looking at you like this, you know, you still need to be complimentary of their personal belongings. You still need to say, you know, hey, I love your collection. I had a guy literally had, I think, over 500 trains. He and his son had built this entire scenery in the room over the garage with like mountains and water and sounds and noise, all kinds of things that they had spent 2 years together, father and son, building and painting by hand the scene. And I come in being the listing agent and said, you gotta take all that down. How am I going to find you a train enthusiast that doesn't want this 800 square foot bonus room and wants to keep it as a train? You know, that's very hard. But I had to say, like, hey, I love your trains. I love what you've done. I think it's really incredible. You're really talented. And I think there's a special place for this collection. If you're not going to take it where it is, maybe I can help you find a museum that would showcase it or whatever it is. But you got to ease it in. You got to be gentle with them. You do need to acknowledge that what they have is special, even if you don't like it. And then it's personal to them. But you want to remind them, we get one chance to make a great first impression. And the things that I'm asking you to do to prepare your house for sale, excuse me, are things that I know are going to help you make the greatest first impression. We are also trying to appeal to the masses, all the buyers in your price range, not just one or two, not a little group of them. We want all the buyers in this price range to like this house and to see all the features that it has. And when we have your pictures that are very personal to you, we have buyers walking around making assumptions about you and your family that we don't want them to do. We also have them making assumptions about how much money you have. Like, again, I sold in military towns. I had to take all the military uniforms out of the closets because people would make assumptions about what ranks the people were and whether or not they needed their money or didn't need their money and who lived there and do I know them? You know, those are the kinds of things that we want to advise our clients, that you don't want the sellers, you don't want the buyers walking through their house making assumptions about them or using any information that they gather about them from the house against them in negotiations. That's for the pictures. The deer heads have to come down because we don't want to offend anybody and we want the masses to look at it, right? We want it to be the most attractive and the most presentable to the masses and the most amount of buyers possible. And again, you don't have to take them down. I'm on your team. My advice is to give you advice to help you make the greatest first impression for the highest success of a sale, for the highest amount of money in the least amount of time. Leaving your deer heads up could cost us time, which then would cost us money. Make sense? Will you cut your commission? We already dealt with. We don't want to sell during the holidays. Totally get that. I love being at home during the holidays. It's my favorite. I don't have to leave the house. I don't have to, you know, my house is the most beautiful during the holidays because it's decorated. And I will remind them that typically when your house is on the market during the holidays, you have the most serious of buyers that are actually looking at it because other people are busy doing other things. Right? So if someone comes through your house around Thanksgiving or around Christmas, it's because they're looking for a house, right? So we don't want to sell during the holidays. You may be able to overcome that. It may be that we're not willing to show our house during the holidays, but you should push back and give them alternatives. We want to wait to see if we get a better offer. How many of you have had a listing where you get an offer right out of the gate, but it's not what your seller wanted? And so they don't counter it, they just reject it. I'll raise my hand because it happens to me all the time, right?
Me.
Yeah. In my experience, I will tell you, typically the first offer you get, not always, but typically the first offer you get is actually the best offer you're going to get, right? Not always, but often. And I will tell them that, well, it sounds to me like you're really hoping for something different than what we got. Talk to me a little bit more about what you were hoping for. Well, I wanted list price. I want to know concessions. I wanted to close it faster closing. I want to know home sale contingency. Do you think that's something that's attainable? If you think it is, then you want to guide them through what that looks like. But you should always, in my opinion, it's just my opinion, you should always advise your clients to make a counteroffer, no matter what. If somebody takes the time to write an offer for you on paper, not a verbal, on paper, you should make a counteroffer with a reasonable amount that you'd be willing to sell the house for. And if they don't choose to bite, let them go. And then we will wait to see if we get something better. But rejecting an offer is not in your best interest. Rejecting an offer tells the buyer that you're unreasonable and not really willing to work with them. And I'd rather you actually demonstrate to them that you are willing to sell it, but not at the price that they're wanting or whatever the term is they don't like. But you should always try to convince them to make a counteroffer. All those make sense? Okay. The big thing that I want you to take from this is that, again, we went through each one of these, but I want you to remind yourself of the 5 steps of these objections and making sure that you're actually listening to the words that they're using. Don't be afraid to ask your clients, tell me what makes you afraid. Why are you afraid? It's actually a post that I would actually advise you to put on your social media right now, is like, talk to me about what you're afraid of about entering the real estate market right now. Ask the questions that you think you're going to get objections on, or ask the things that you know are of concern to people, and then hit them back with a response to it. I hear you. I think the news is making us think it's a scary time to buy real estate right now, but I'm here to tell you the opposite. And I want to remind you guys that you are literally the cheerleaders for home ownership, right? Like, you should be the steward of home ownership. You should be encouraging people to become homeowners. It is the best long-term investment people can make with their money, right? It leads to long-term wealth. Do you know any millionaires that don't own property? I don't, right? So I just want to remind you, are you listening to the words that they're using? Are you acknowledging what they're saying? Like, are they being heard? Did you hear them correctly? Did you isolate the objection that they actually had? Is this the actual thing that they're upset about or concerned about, or is it something else and they're using this as an excuse? So that does happen sometimes, where someone will give you an objection, but that's not even really what, like, so how many times do you have a client that will terminate over a home inspection that's like a broken switch plate cover? It's over nothing, right? The inspection wasn't their objection. There was something else going on, but there wasn't enough trust between the client and you to find out what the reality was about why they wanted to terminate, what they were actually afraid of, what they were scared of. Did they get cold feet? So it's our job to find out, okay, what are you actually afraid of? Let's talk about it. Maybe I can help. Maybe my superpower is exactly what the thing is you're afraid of, right? So finding that out. So isolating the objection, making sure that's not the only thing standing in our way. Is this an objection I can actually overcome? Is this something I can provide them more information with? Can I, help them process their feelings about it? Sometimes we are therapists. Sometimes we do have to help them work through the feelings that they're feeling about it. It's a scary thing. I had a doctor once. I used to sell to a lot of physicians, doctors, and lawyers. And this kid was like fresh. He was a brand new intern in residency. And I used to have clients come to my house all the time to write my offers, because my office was really far from where I lived, and it was just closer to where most of these people were buying houses. And so I remember the kid, it was a kid at the time, sitting at my dining room table, and we were getting ready to write the offer. And he's like, "Excuse me, where's your restroom?" And unfortunately, it was right off my dining room. And the poor kid went in there to puke his guts out because he was so scared about buying his first house. Now, I knew, because I could hear him retching, I knew how scared he was, right? But like, that's the kind of thing that we don't know what they're actually afraid of. Are they afraid of getting in over their head? Are they afraid of spending too much money? Are they afraid that they, might lose it down the road? Are they afraid that this isn't the right purchase, that this is a bad, area, that they're scared of where the investment is? Get down to why they're afraid. Why are you afraid? Tell me a little bit more about what you're nervous about. Because you're going to be nervous buying your first house, but let's dig a little deeper, right? I want you to isolate that objection, make sure that's not the only thing, but then I want you to validate them. I want your clients to know you're advocating for them, you're on their team, that you hear what they're saying, and I want you to get the best deal. I want you to save money, but here's how we're going to be the most successful in moving forward if this is the house that you want. And remember, how would you feel if I had to call your wife and tell her that those babies that y'all haven't even had yet will not be running around in this backyard? Right? And then I want you to challenge these objections that they have. Provide them more data, provide them more information, provide them with an alternative thought, an alternative feeling, provide them with some other information that they might need to make a better decision. If we could address this one issue, could we move forward on this house? Would you be ready to move forward this weekend on that house? Make sense? All right, wrapping up here, I will tell you my challenge to you would be just to pick 3 objections that we covered today, and just practice how you're going to keep combating them. Make sure you go through the 5 steps of overcoming an objection with each one, and just get really good at having what you're going to say to the most common objections that you get. So pick 3 that you see all the time, or 3 that you don't really feel prepared. I will tell you that there is a, if you don't have it yet, you can probably Google it. You could Google the locker room scripts simplified. I know you have it, Brandy, but script simplified is the name of it. If you're looking for scripts to help you through some objections, that's a great script book that you can download for free. It's a PDF. You can probably Google it. It's the locker room script simplified. The other thing I would tell you is to find somebody to practice role-playing objections with. Like, again, you don't have to do it every day. You don't have to do it like once a week, but you just need to get good at identifying what are common objections that we hear, and then making sure you're equipped with how to respond to them, making sure that you don't stumble and jumble over the words, that you feel confident in how you respond to it, that you don't go, yeah, I can see how you feel that way. Like, that's not enough, right? I want you to feel prepared. I want you to feel polished. I want you to feel confident in the information that you're giving them to help them get over whatever the objection is. Okay. If you send me an email at hello@RECoachCrate, I'll send you some bonus materials for this course. And then because you took the course with me, I do offer coaching as well. You can do, I do one-on-one, I do group, and I do my box coaching subscription that comes to your house. And I did give you guys a promo code if you're not familiar with. Most of you are already subscribers. Any questions for me? No?
I think so.
Was this helpful?
Very.
Yes.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
No problem. I appreciate you guys attending. I hope that it was worthwhile to you. The biggest thing that I want to just share with you is just remember, a lot of times the objection we hear is not really the objection they have. Let's get down to the root of really what it is, and let's see if it's something we can overcome, and let's make sure we're armed with the language and enough information to be able to help them get through it. And then don't be afraid to push back on them a little bit by offering an alternative thought, an alternative feeling, or an alternative perspective, if that helps you move forward. Okay, remember, if you want your kids to eat, you gotta have some sales skills. Okay.
Oh yeah.
All right,
Laura,
Okay,
thank you for
Laura.
everything you offer. I appreciate it so much.
no problem.
Hey, Laura,
Thanks.
can I share?
Absolutely.
Hey, so I've been in the business 21 years. I'm not sure how long everybody else has been, trainer as well. I do not have to take continuing education, but this class was excellent. I was really looking forward to it. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
These are all things that, I've worked on my entire career, but it's always good to just come back and listen.
Yeah.
So thank you very much for that. I appreciate it.
No, you're amazing. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate it. And I'm
Thanks.
glad
And
it
hey,
was helpful
Sarah.
to you.
Hi, Sarah.
Hey, Jennifer, good to see you, girl. I saw
You
you,
too.
on there. I said, oh, I know her.
Well, I'm glad you guys go out and have the best day today. And I look forward to seeing you guys at another class, and I'm glad you can make it and go out there and crush it. Okay.
Thanks,
Thank
Laura.
you so much.
You're welcome.
Bye.
guys.
All right.
Have a great day. Okay.
Bye.
Bye.